morning, good afternoon, good evening uh, to all the attendees of this panel discussion based on where you are. It's great to have you here for this session titled What Does COVID-19 Mean for Networks, 5G, Business Models, and Broadband? To cover this very vast topic, I have a very distinguished panel with me. I have Lieutenant General Dr. S.P. Kochar, who is the Director General of COAI. He's been a former signal officer, chief of Indian Army, and CEO, Telecom Skill Council, advisor MSME, UPSC, and member of GC of universities, DoD, PSUs, and private companies. Welcome to the show, General. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I have with me Tu Kiang, who is the Deputy Director, Corporate Sales and Solutions with M1 Singapore. Si Kiang manages internetworking, data analytics, cloud managed services, IT security, IoT applications, and other telco ICT solutions to government agencies, corporations, and SMEs. Si Kiang, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I have Shiraz Kazmi, who is the head of network virtualization and back office operations from Telenor, Pakistan. That's a very interesting combination. Shiraz has 16 years of experience in network operations and maintenance, working in multiple roles in telecom operator and vendor organizations. Welcome to the show, Shiraz.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lastly, I have Dr. Kumar Sivarajan. He has nearly 3 decades of experience in the field of telecommunications. He's the co-founder and current CTO of Tejas Networks India. Welcome to the show, Kumar. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Kaustubh.
Yeah. Finally, my name is Kaustubh Parkhi. I am a principal analyst with Insight Research. We are a 30-year-old outfit in telecom market research, focusing currently on cloud-native network functions. So with this introduction, now you can see that we have representation from the industry consortium side, standards body side, optical networking side, and of course from the telco side. So you can bet that we will have a 360-degree view of the subject on hand. So to set the ball rolling, I'd like to ask a general question to all the panelists, and I will circulate it in the ascending order of the organizations that they represent in alphabetical order. The question is, what changes did you or your member companies observe in your revenue streams due to the pandemic? I will start with the general.
See, when the pandemic struck us, we saw a sudden surge in data requirements. People got onto data extreme in high numbers, and we saw a drop in voice calls. But after some time, this thing petered out and it came to near normal, showing a growth of only 5 to 6% from the initial value of 25% surge it had shown. So if you look at the revenues, there's not been much of change in the gross revenue earnings of telcos, and they remain more or less the same with marginal increase. But the importance of data has been underlined.
Okay. So you're saying that the data usage increased, shot up marginally, then it petered out, and now it is pretty much resembling what it was in the pre-COVID days.
Yes, showing a 6 to 8% increase even when it flattened.
Okay. How about you, Si Kiang? What was your observation?
So back in M1, I think on the whole, voice call remained stable with dips in roaming traffic, obviously due to the travel restriction. And then on the fixed services front, we saw an increase in traffic volume, largely due to many who were working from home. So thanks to our government's Smart Nation initiative, so most of the businesses who have got fiber, basically they are able to run and continue their businesses virtually in this new normal. And then of course, what comes to the students and the educational sector, given that the MOE basically runs a lot of home-based learning, so everyone else basically get to have a fair share of the data access. And of course, for those who are retirees or people who are just staying at home, I think the fiber and the connectivity keep them sane during the circuit breaker that's imposed by our government. Yeah.
Okay. So The only change that you observed is in your roaming revenues. Otherwise, your regular voice and data streams remain pretty much unaffected. Would that be correct?
Yes, correct. Because I think the other key thing is that we have an increase in sales for alternative communication toolkits. So, the folks working from home are buying and keeping up with their essentials to get connected and to also improve their work experience to be remain productive over the time. Yeah.
Okay, great. Shiraz, how about you? What was your observation?
Yeah, in Pakistan also in Telenor, like we have the increase in data growth because the data requirement was increased. So we have seen the increase in the data, and in case of voice, it remained sometime the normal, and then it dropped because when there was the lockdown situation, when we have a strong lockdown, so the distribution network also got affected, and during this time there was a dip in revenues also, but over the period of time when it was settled and the overall situation get better, lockdown was eased off, when the
Mhm.
situation get better, then it was normalized, and overall we have seen growth in the data because there are a lot of requirement of data in like work from home and all these avenues. So this was more or less same like we have in our neighboring country, like journals have told about the situation.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is the data revenues have the increase in data revenue has sort of offsetted the reduction in voice revenue. So net you are even as compared to your pre-COVID days. Would that be correct, Ashiras?
Yeah, and over the period of time, the voice revenues also come to the normal when the lockdown was eased off.
Okay, okay. Yeah, Kumar, what's your experience on that whole side? How
So,
did you see it?
so I would say I have two hats, right? TSGSI, also Tejas. Let me answer this from Tejas, which is a
Mhm.
fiber optic equipment maker.
Right.
Unlike operators, if something changes, we don't get revenue impact immediately. So I can say, what do our customers start talking to us about? I would see immediately after COVID, we saw a huge surge in interest in GPON or access to home. Right? So we
Okay.
had multiple segments, mobile backhaul, data center interconnect, business, broadband, business connectivity. Home connectivity was sort of the small segment, but operators who did everything, their focus shifted to connecting people with GPON at homes, much
Okay.
more from doing more backhaul or office internet and so on. See, that's where the traffic went. So people who are combined operators, the focus has shifted definitely to GPON in the last 6 months to get more and more homes connected over fiber.
Okay, so GPON is taking the center stage for you now in the scheme of
Yes,
things, and that may be the case.
people need better
Uh,
broadband. Yeah.
Kumar, I'm hearing a slight echo when you're speaking, so maybe you would want to get
Mute.
that when I come. Great. So it was great to have an overview of the impact of the pandemic on the revenue streams. And by and large, it does appear that while there is no substantial growth in revenue, there hasn't been any dip in revenues either. But we have to look at the larger picture, specifically from the Indian context. And I would like to bring in the general over here. General, we are still not nowhere close to auctioning the spectrum for 5G. Will investment in 5G be easy to organize in the financially strained pandemic and post-pandemic scenarios for Indian telcos? General, you're on mute.
The pandemic has only helped to focus on telecom as an essential service.
Okay.
Other than that, the rollout of 5G would have gone through a system which exists even now. And the main thing that bothers us as operators is that a huge investment is required to roll out 5G. India will have distributed, rollouts of 5G. It cannot have a full-fledged rollout. So it's not a network issue as such. It's a business issue.
Right.
And hence, there should be a justification of spending so much of capital on rollout of 5G.
Right.
At present, unless there are changes in the taxation and in the levies, and government looks at telecom as an essential service, much like water and electricity, and treats it as such, investing so much of money will become a problem. Especially for the near future, because there are no clear-cut use cases which will generate revenue in the immediate future. It will happen, of course, it will happen, but it will happen later. And for that later stage, at least in the intervening period, government has to give us a different look, and government has to reduce. We are requesting them to reduce our levies, taxes, and things of that nature. License conditions, all those things need to be reduced. It is important for the government also to realize that while telecom has always been a revenue generator for them, in this particular case, they should not look at only the primary revenue generation, but also look at secondary revenue generation. And I'll explain that how. With telecom becoming foundational, all other industries are going to have huge amount of value adds, force multipliers, if you may, by riding on telecom, which the pandemic has shown us. And therefore, the revenue which is generated from those industries, from those sectors, is what I'm calling as a secondary revenue. That will be huge. And that is what the government should focus on. So there is a requirement of a strategic vision. And I'm glad to say that the government has started discussing this, and I hope the outcomes are positive.
Right. I understand where you're coming from, because last year when there was a talk of the auctioning the spectrum, there were some estimates that a pan-India 100 megahertz license would cost somewhere around $7 billion for individual operators. So that's a very steep task given the situation that most of our telcos are in right now. So it's very interesting that you say that the government should look at telecom not as a primary revenue generator, but as a secondary revenue. Secondary revenue should also be taken into account.
Yes.
Great. Sik Yang, let me come to you and get more hands-on. What were the major operational and network management adjustments that you had to undertake to cope with the pandemic, Sik Yang? Sik Yang, are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
Sik Yang is muted.
Yes. Yep. Okay. So like many other countries, both cellular and fixed services are essential and critical during the pandemic. So for M1, we provide both cellular and fixed services, and our customers basically, especially our subscribers, keep abreast of the COVID-19 situation. So you might have read in the newspaper that our government are very effective in broadcasting through different channels, news, social media, and keeping the citizens abreast. And then these cellular networks from the mobile data or even the fixed broadband becomes an essential channel for transmission of messages and broadcast of messages to the citizens. So on the network front, therefore, it is very imperative that we keep our network optimal. And I must say that we are very happy that our investments in enhancing our capability, train our staff, and then train them during peacetime for inevitables like this. This training really paid off, because for many years we have created a habit whereby M1 strive to regularly review our network, identify hotspots, optimize network, increase capacity as needed, and analyze our network performance so that we can have appropriate benchmark thresholds and undertake preemptive measures well ahead of time. So when come this type of pandemic, if you will, the increase in data usage, basically with people working from home, students being engaged, then it means that the operations and support team will have to really pay attention and then constantly optimizing the network, redistribute the traffic from our routes and from our IP infrastructure. So the networks and the team of engineers must be well fed and kept healthy. So they work in split sites, and then to ensure that messages are passed down top down to ensure that the network is in good condition. Then on the business or operational front, we have our own customer service support team, our field engineers, our corporate sales team. We work together closely, And thanks to how we have evolved our infrastructure, even field engineers where with restriction to travel, they are now able to establish remote connection securely for using SD-WAN to basically access customers' premise to ensure that their performance of the routers and their CPEs are actually functioning well. Then at the same time, using through this pandemic, it also caused the sales force to think creatively. So we identify SMEs and corporates who are in needs to transform to go digital, and we create solutions working together with IMDA to basically introduce Go Digital and start digital programs where we can equip and educate our corporate customer through virtual engagement to basically set them up so that they can have a continuity to their business. So in a nutshell, we feel that this steadfast effort really paid off during the pandemic, and also echoing one of the reasons why we don't see a significant dip in revenues, because it becomes sustainable as our Keppel BU, our Keppel Corporation CEO said, we want to have a sustainable ecosystem. And also, this also gives us the opportunity to render support to our other Keppel BUs. So M1 being a wholly owned Keppel entity, so we also work with our, for example, Keppel Offshore Marine. We deploy eSIMs enabled wearables to allow workers to be tracked so that management can monitor their movement and ensuring that there is safety. The safety of the workforce in the yard is being monitored and taken care of. And so, in a nutshell, I feel that the business did not come to a standstill for us, with the effective operations. And then, in fact, many of us in the company remain busy during this period. And we were able to render services to our customers and to help in our respective capacity. So thanks to the government initiative, where they work with telcos at the same time, the business continuity planning by management and responsiveness and responsibility of staff to see training as something that's important. So therefore, it kind of helped pull us through during this pandemic period.
Yeah. Okay. So if I were to paraphrase what you said, you benefited primarily from training your employees, keeping them safe and well fed, and you also leveraged on your parents' infrastructure, Keppel, and made sure that your business continuity planning and execution was as seamless as possible. And it helped you a lot that your government had very clear-cut policies on about the do's and don'ts during operation during this pandemic. So yeah, so it's a very important aspect that the clarity from the government side, as far as operators are concerned, is very important for them to be able to cope with the challenges that the pandemic throws in front of us.
Exactly.
Right. I would now like to change tack and go to Shiraz. Shiraz, as you know, he's head of network virtualization. So I'm curious to know, Shiraz, how did network virtualization, that is NFV or even software-defined networks, help in your pandemic response efforts?
Yeah, it's you can say a blessing in disguise. When we were going for the virtualization 2-3 years back, it was a total paradigm shift, and coming from a physical network directly to virtualized network in telco is not normal in those days. But we have opted for it, and we have gone for it, and in last 1 and 2 years we have transformed to a virtualized network, and it really helped us, like in this era of pandemic, when there are all the exports imports are halted, you cannot bring the equipment from outside, and this virtualized network helped you to you can say scale up as per your requirement. So when we have had this situation and there was any requirement to scale up for the data growth, so we can do it easily. We can do it in days instead of months when you were talking about the physical networks. So virtualization is very important nowadays, and it helped us in case of that we have done easily using the virtualized network.
Okay. So, but how about people and their skills? I mean, as you said, it requires a paradigm shift, not just in terms of the technologies used, but in terms of the people that are operating these technologies. Telcos are used to working in a particular manner. Network virtualization requires them to work differently. How are you able to convince people to, get their act together and cope with this situation?
Yeah, it took time. It took time because we have had this situation. We have had this virtualized networks in IT. So we have the experience and competence in people who are working in IT. And when we have virtualized, we have hired some of the people from the IT background who have the virtualized environment experience. And then we have utilized in the telco, and we have also enhance the competence of our employees who were in the core networks and who were working on the physical networks before. And with 1 or 2 years of constant working, our organization put in efforts to bring resources. We have hired internees, we have hired specialized people to work in the virtualization, and this helped us to have a successful transformation from a physical network to a virtualized network in telco. And we have also got an year back, we have transformed half of our network in the RAN to a virtualized RAN. We have now also the radio with the virtualized, you can say RNC BSCs. So this also helped us.
Okay, that's very interesting to know. So basically, so virtualization as a as a means for scaling up and avoiding imports is a very interesting thought. I think it's a learning for all of us. I'd now like to go to Kumar and ask him on the cellular backhaul architecture part. And there's a specific reason why I'm asking this is because what we observed during the pandemic is a shift in the traffic sources. So as more and more people work from home, the pressure points on the network are bound to change. So Kumar, what has been the impact of the pandemic on the cellular backhaul architecture and from your company's point of view? Kumar, are you able to hear me?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Let me split your question and answer it in two parts.
Okay.
One is what's the impact in the urban scenario and what's the impact in the rural scenario.
Okay.
So in the urban scenario, clearly, as you said, there's a shift in traffic, people going to homes. So you need to now change your coverage suitably. And the best way to do that is with small cells. People thought small cells is something you do with 5G. But now I think there's a big surge in deploying small cells for 4G. It's cost effective. You can cover the hotspot and so on. And what is the best way to do backhaul for a small cell? You would standard way is fiber, 10 gig and so on. But we are seeing interest now in GPON as a backhaul for 5G.
Okay.
Why? Because GPON is naturally present somewhere near the home. Not only 5G, even a 4G small cell. So why not use it to backhaul a small cell traffic? So I think that's an interesting development. So GPON's moved from a home broadband to a business broadband, especially for MSCs, and now for small cell backhaul. That's you wouldn't have expected that before the pandemic. And the surge in interest in 4G small cells. That's the urban answer.
Okay.
The rural answer is the number of broadband users has dramatically increased. I saw one report which said in India it's going from 250 million to 300 million in the pandemic, from March to December. So over 300 million. So people need broadband, and you really can't do fiber broadband in the rural areas. The government is trying to get fiber to the village. They got it to the village panchayat, which is the big village. Now they're getting it to the village, but you can't really get it to the homes. So it has to be wireless. And so I think the backhaul architecture will probably be, the traditional ones, carrier Ethernet, packet-based, and so on, in the rural areas. But the shift has to be that it has to be large cells. You cannot cover a country like India with small 5G cells, right? So this is something we realized in TSDSI several years ago. And we have proposed that 5G cells should be allowed to be 5-kilometer inter-cell distance, which is now accepted by ITU, but not yet by 3GPP. Okay, and I may have some differences with General on this, but so that's what we are championing in TSDSI: large cells, 5 kilometer intersite distance, to effectively solve the problem of rural broadband. The backhaul
Yes.
there will be, optical, 10 gig is a reasonable technology, packet-based backhaul, and that I think can revolutionize the availability of broadband in rural areas. So it's a modification to the 5G standard, a minor modification. We hope it will be a global standard, so it will help not only India but all developing countries, and that's what we'd like to see as the mechanism to deliver rural broadband.
Okay. I'm not surprised that the number of broadband users in the rural areas has grown by 20%, because you would see that most of the schools nowadays, they're all having online classes, and where do children take all these online classes from? They'll take it from their homes. So that is one key growth factor, as you would say, specifically in the rural area, because many of them would have now equipped themselves with at least of good data pack, so that they can attend their classes seamlessly. I'm also curious to know about GPON. You mentioned it a couple of times, and it seems to be like a dark horse in your portfolio.
Yes.
As a market researcher, I cannot help but ask you, how much has been the growth in the market share, in the revenue share of GPON in your overall portfolio?
I'm not tracking, but GPON used to be like 25%, roughly. I'm saying, because we had WDM, carrier Ethernet, and GPON. So it was not the biggest portion of our business. But now I can see this year it might dominate, because there is so much interest in building new GPON networks. Because you just need to get more people on board. I mean, there is growth in the traffic, but networks are already engineered to do 2-3 times the capacity that was there, right? So the backbone doesn't need to change immediately, but getting new people on board on a wired connection is the order of the day, because people are not happy with 4G connection as broadband.
The general would like to differ with you on this, and I would like to bring him back again. General, what is your single biggest learning from the pandemic?
Single biggest learning, if you ask me for one learning, that is telecom has proven itself that it is the backbone of the country as of now. Without telecom in COVID, you could not have got the economy into a running mode. Many things, actually, the efficiency improved in many sectors because of telecom. And people, except for the first few days, people really didn't find it necessary to move around. They didn't feel the necessity to move around. And going forward, you will see that it is not going to go away. Most people will work hybrid mode, sometime from home, sometimes from office. But more and more work will shift into home. So that is an important learning, and everything else then fits into that, like telecom being essential service, like providing telecom to the entire country, rural or urban, in the format that they deserve, they want it. And of course, interoperability will be the key. The key issue will be that we have to be a global network. And therefore, interoperability with other networks and other equipment is essential. So these are the things that are learnings for us. And we have also seen, as an addendum, that when it comes to a crisis, India is geared up. And in this crisis of COVID, we found the government, the industry, and all the stakeholders coming together and seeing that the networks are kept alive, and they run at the optimum capability, and they meet the requirements of the user. And this is what has happened. Actually, the breakdowns have become much less during COVID period than they were earlier. For example, we used to get about 900 cases of BTSs misperforming per day. That reduced to 70. Can you believe it? During COVID, the cuts reduced from 100 to a substantially lower figure. So that shows that everybody came together when the crisis struck, and I hope this type of cooperation continues. So these are things that we've learned in COVID.
Okay, great. Sikian, what is your learning? What is your single biggest learning from the pandemic?
I think I agree with the general. So communication technology is definitely the key enabler in this new normal. I think more importantly, so if you have just imagined that we are still working on GPRS today, I think the economy will be even worse state now. But thanks to the fiberization, the evolution of technology, community can remain connected. Organizations and businesses can continue to run. So I think this is something that we should embrace and applaud. The situation in this pandemic period. And then of course, as I've mentioned, I think teamwork within the organization and willingness to be transformed in this new normal is going to be essential. And we do not know what's going to come, but I think it will just make us stronger.
Right. Shiraz, what's your learning?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest learning is that work from home is a reality. And when we talk about the areas where you cannot work from home in the normal scenarios before, like we can say NOC, Network Operation Center, or all these departments. But during the pandemic, when the situation was bad, we have also run the NOC from home of the
Okay.
team. So it was another big learning that you can work from home, and this is a new normal. And another important aspect is the collaboration among all the stakeholders, whether it's the organization or it's the regulatory authorities or it's the government, and they can collaborate in case of such a big event, and then we can deliver the services to the end customers and for their safety and usability. And it is worked as a social service that if you have to recover a site in a lockdown area and this is totally closed, so we have a special team arranged who has got all the hazmat suits and everything, all the PPs on, and they go there and they recover the site, and then it serves the regular public. And the government agencies also allowed us to go there because the area was completely locked down. So this spirit and this efforts are the biggest learning during this pandemic.
Right, Kumar, for you to have the final word on this, what's your single biggest learning from the pandemic?
My single biggest learning is respect the wire, and wireless has a long way to go. Okay. Before the pandemic, I used to use my mobile phone on a 4G connection. After the pandemic, bandwidth isn't enough. I need to connect to my home Wi-Fi, which is on a fiber broadband connection. Second, I lost some respect for Wi-Fi itself. I found that Wi-Fi doesn't sustain for hours together. So I found my LAN cable. My laptop's now always connected on a LAN cable to the home broadband connection. So respect the wire, fiber to the home and your LAN cable. And lastly, I learned the difference between 10 GB per month, 100 GB per month, and a terabyte per month. I used to manage the mobile, which gives you roughly 10 GB a month. I had a 250 GB broadband connection. I'd never used it up. On April 20th, I'd used a full 250 GB and I had to scramble for the last 10 days. I've now upgraded to 1.5 terabytes. And if you had asked me, January, will you ever run out of 250 GB in a month? I would have said no. So respect the wire. A terabyte is what you need at home, and that's not provided by wireless.
Okay, so basically data is the new oil, as they say, and wire is the new oil delivery channel, as you would say. So great. I mean, it was great to hear from all of you. What I have learned personally after this discussion is that surprisingly, the common thread that most of the speakers underlined is that government, if it wants to be, is really very responsive in critical situations like this, and which is a very heartening thing to note because this is a once in a lifetime, hopefully, situation that we are all facing. And it is great to know that telecom operators, governments, regulators, consortiums can all work in tandem and scale their operations and rise to the occasion and keep the show going. So, because this situation is something that nobody had bargained for. Well, 12 months back or even 9 months back, nobody would have imagined that we would be sitting like this and conducting a meeting online. And the government being able to scale up and bring all stakeholders together, and the telcos playing such a sterling role in keeping the show going is a very heartening thing as a telecom service professional. And yeah, we need to adjust ourselves to the new realities. That is, work from home is probably here to stay. Many companies have given extended, notices to their employees that till some of them even to the end of 2021 have advised their employees to work from home. So our way of looking at work, our way of looking at life, everything is changing, and telecom is playing a big role in this change. And it is very good to know that we are at the forefront of this change rather than being the followers of this change. And that is, I think, the takeaway that we can take with ourselves from this discussion. So, for me, what COVID-19 means for networks, 5G, business models, and broadband is that telecom is the driver of the change as to how humanity responds to this pandemic. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was great talking to you, great having you here and listening to your thoughts. And I hope you too had a good session. And with this, I hope that you have a great week ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paki. Thank you so much.
Thank you.